We often talk about the impact adoption has on a child. Unfortunately, this means jumping to the negatives, how adoption option supposedly damages a child's identity and self-esteem, or how it can cause him or her grief, loss, and physical and emotional trauma. But there's so much more to adoption. Countless good things positives. In fact, 9 out of 10 adoptees experience adoption's positive impacts. These include, but are not limited to, a stable home environment, better mental and behavioral health, and success in personal and educational endeavors. Adoption provides children with the opportunity to have a life that their birth parents wanted for them, a life that is enriched with blessings and love. Carrie Kaczynski dreamed of being a mother to a large family from the time she was a small child. So when doctors told her and her husband, Craig Kaczynski, that they couldn't have children, naturally, she was devastated. Then fate intervened. Pregnant with twins and unsure if she could take care of the babies, the friend asked Carrie if she and her husband would adopt them. Deciding to give it the old college try, the couple agreed to take custody of the children on a trial basis. And on February 28, 2014, they picked up Adeline and Kenneth from the hospital in Ohio. Little did they know that 2 years later, they would be the proud parents of not one, but 3 sets of twins, 4 adopted toddlers, and 2 premature babies of their very own. The story is a complicated one and emotional. But today the couple say they truly believe fate stepped in to bless them with all 6 members of their both rambunctious and still struggling brood. In July 2013, an acquaintance who was several months pregnant contacted her on Facebook to see if she and her husband wanted to adopt her baby. They agreed, but didn't find out until later she was actually expecting twins. Adeline and Kenneth were born on February 28, 2014. The following year, the same woman reached out to them to say she could no longer care for her other set of twins, JJ and Cease. So the couple welcomed them into their family as well. They were also born on February 28, but in 2013. Then last year, Carrie gave birth to twins via in vitro fertilization on February 28. There's never a dull moment in my house, she says, laughing. Such a wildly improbable, statistically, nearly impossible thing to happen. They still can't even believe it sometimes, she says. And none of it was intentional. All 3 sets of twins were born by emergency C-section. Carrie, 28, of Yorkville, Wisconsin, tells People. I get that question a lot. Did you plan it? It was a C-section. It must have been planned. No, mine was at 24 weeks. I did not plan on them being born at 24 weeks. But adopting was always the plan, even before they were told that they could not have children naturally, she says. We did it backwards, says Carrie, who is herself adopted. We were going to have our own kids first, then adopt. But apparently God had other plans for us. The adoptions of the first 2 sets of twins aren't final yet, strictly for financial reasons. God has a sense of humor. Clips Carrie of the family's tale. The toddlers taking a break from work and childbearing last week. The couple took a few minutes to explain how 1 set of twins became 3. It involved a few more phone calls. The young family had been taking care of Adeline and Kenneth for about a year and had decided to adopt them. When the children's biological mother reached out, again looking for help, she had hit a rough spot and was wondering if Carrie and Craig could take care of her 2 older children, a twin boy and girl who were then 2 years old. The couple agreed. It wasn't long before the children's birth mother implored them to keep the 4 kids. The decision to adopt them all wasn't easy, admits Carrie, but one they made soon after, welcoming young CC and JJ, whom they had previously cared for while their birth mother was pregnant, back into their home. It was a difficult decision. We were trying to get pregnant ourselves, but they were siblings, so that was part of our consideration. We wanted to keep the siblings together, Carrie said. But even with a house filled with the noises, love and trappings of 4 toddlers, Carrie and Craig were still pining for children of their own. Carolyn and Clarissa. It was about a year later when Carrie found out that another set of twins would be showing up in the Kaczynski household. Only this time they were expected. One day, sitting on the couch, folding clothes, the 5 months pregnant Carrie felt that she thought she might have contractions. She called her doctor. By the time she went in for her appointment, she was fully dilated. 6 weeks of hospital bed rest later, she underwent emergency section surgery, a type of cesarean, giving birth to Carolyn and Clarissa on February 28 of this year. Just 25 weeks old, the infants weighed in at only 1 pound 6 ounces each and were sent directly to the neonatal intensive care unit. In the weeks that have passed, the tiny babies have undergone surgeries and suffered through viral infections. They both have scar tissue on their lungs and are on full-blown oxygen, but they're making progress, Terry said. Since their birth, they have each gained about 1.5 pounds and remain in stable but critical condition. Carrie tries to see them once a day, driving from the horse farm outside Union Grove, where the family lives, to Children's Hospital of Wisconsin and Watson, where the girls will likely be staying for the next several months. Craig, who does accounting for a Kenosha business, gets out to see the girls about 3 times a week. Their brothers and sisters should be able to visit soon. Prayer and Faith ask how they get through every day taking care of 4 toddlers and worrying about 2 struggling infants. Carrie and Craig both say a prayer. In addition to getting help from biological family members and their church family at Living Like Christian Church in Kenosha, they say they have friends around the world praying for them. The fact that all 6 children share a birthday, CC and JJ, were born on February 28, 2013, Adeline and Kenneth on February 28, 2014, and Carolyn and Clarissa on February 28, 2016, makes the couple feel like God has a plan for their family. We think it's definitely meant to be. That we would have all of them, Carrie said. It's just God's way of saying, here. I am giving you these children as a blessing, and I'm going to make it interesting and fun for you by having them all born on the same day. In the meantime, they will just try to take things day by day, even if fate has made them the parents of 3 sets of twins, all 3 years of age or younger. It just kind of happened all at once. You can't fuss with the stuff too much, said Craig last week watching CC. JJ, Adeline and Kenneth bounce across the living room. You're just trying to put out the big fires and hope the little fires aren't too serious. Overall, adoption has many outcomes on a child. However, the positives far outweigh the negatives. Having a stable home environment, strong behavioral and mental health, and educational and personal successes are only the tip of the iceberg. Many more exist. We encourage you to explore and learn all you can. Share with us any other ways that you've seen adoptions. Positive impacts on an adoptee? In the comments below. We'd love to hear from you, for the truth is, adoption's positive impacts on your child will last a lifetime. Allowing your son or daughter to thrive and grow into a healthy, well-rounded and independent adult, that must be crazy for this family. But at least they're happy this families do the same. I've always hoped to make a difference in this world, to bring goodness, peace or healing to a world that often seems inundated with loss, hardship, and a vast array of obstacles that make life difficult for so many. When it came to the decision to adopt, it seemed like a no-brainer. I thought this was one way to make a difference, at least for one child. My husband Adam and I would open our home and our hearts to a child in need. I remember reading that there are almost 3 million orphans in Uganda, and with that statistic in mind and a bit more research, in October of 2013, we began the journey to adopt. From there, we did piles of paperwork, got countless sets of fingerprints, and spent tens of thousands of dollars. It took a little over a year to get through all the formalities, but I was driven to get to the best part of this process, meeting the needs of a child. Eventually, we got to that point. In 2015, we welcomed a beautiful, strong and brave 6-year-old girl named Namata into our home. There's no one blueprint when it comes to adoption, but I attempted to do my homework as thoroughly as any adoptive parent could. Still, nothing could have prepared me for what happened next. It took a little over a year and a half to realize the things our child was telling us were not adding up to the stories told within the paperwork and provided to us by our adoption agency, European Adoption Consultants Incorporated. At first, I wondered if the conflicting information Namata was sharing with us reflected her efforts to cope with the trauma of being relinquished and abused. At many points during that year and a half, I had to suppress the compulsion to view the things she was telling me through my own lenses. As all too often that lens is clouded by one's own privilege and experiences. It was when I began to listen with this openness that I realized what she was so desperately trying to get me to understand. The child we had struggled for years to adopt was not an orphan at all, and not almost everything that was written in her paperwork and told to us about her background was an accurate description of her life in Uganda. More than that, we eventually uncovered that she had a very loving family from which she had been unlawfully taken. In order, we believe and are convinced to provide an orphan to fulfill our application to adopt. Devastated doesn't begin to explain what we felt once we realized what had transpired to bring Namata into our family. Namata's mother was told only that Adam and I were going to care for her child while we provided her with an education, which is a central pathway to empowerment and opportunity in Uganda. So when this supposed chance to be sponsored by a wealthy American couple was presented to her, she felt as if her daughter had been blessed. She never knowingly relinquished her rights as Namada's mother, but once there was a verbal confirmation that we would adopt Namada, those on the ground in Uganda forged the paperwork and placed Mada in an orphanage. By the time Mada's mother realized what was happening, that she was never going to see her child again, she was powerless to stop the wheels that were turning. After many months of uncovering the details of our case, I have also come to realize Mada's mother experience is not uncommon within international adoption.